Patch provides ample database fields that we can search when programming. Now that we've populated our patch database with some information, let's look at how we can use that to our advantage. If you have anything up on stage, go ahead and go to queue out, enter. Make sure we have no data there. And we want to record 100 with a time of 2. We're going to block and assert it and give it a label of blackout. Got a nice blackout queue there. So from here, we're going to say group 1 at 5 times 7, enter. Group 2 at 75, enter. We're going to put those into color palette 6. Group 20, I want to offset those, mirror in at 10 through full, enter. We'll have a gradient on our cyc, hot in the middle. And I want to put those in color palette 6. Now we'll take group 5 at 80%. And I want those to be in focus palette 1 on our guitar player there. And actually I want channel 103, just one of those fixtures, to be at full. All right, so we've got a new look here. Let's record this as Q101 with a time of 3. So let's be in live summary view. So go ahead and press your format button to get to summary view. And I want my CIA to be open. And press displays here. All right, go ahead and press your query hard key. So in our CIA, this is going to open up some options here. We'll look at those in just a moment. So from here, what I'm doing is I'm looking for a selection of channels. So if I say query at 75, enter, it's going to return a selection with all of the channels that are currently at 75%. If I say at 50, enter, now I'm going to take that selection and modify their level to 50%. You'll notice the command line has changed from my query to the actual channel numbers in that selection. Let's also say at full, enter, and now I want to go ahead and update this queue actually. I can also query our text words that we put into our database. So I could say query, I'm going to select my text button and say 575 watt, enter. So that's going to return channels 1 through 10. I can also say query stage left booms, enter, and it's going to grab all the channels that I assigned that text keyword to in patch. I can also combine query words. So we could say query stage right booms and then change to fixture types and say scrollers, enter. So without knowing any channel numbers, using query, I can select groups of fixtures, assuming that I've set up my database with keywords that are helpful for me to do that. Once I've grabbed a selection, I can modify that selection. So I could say full to turn those channels on. Go ahead and sneak those out for now. Query also gives us several soft keys that can be really powerful. So we could say query is in soft key, color palette 6, enter. And that is going to give me a channel selection of all my fixtures that are currently in color palette 6 on stage right now. I can also say query is in focus palette 1 at full, enter, which is only going to return a selection of channel 103, because that's the only channel that meets both criteria of being in that focus palette and being at full. We can also query a specific group of channels. I don't have to query every channel in the show. So I could say 1 through 50 query, and now I'm only going to run my query on this selection. Isn't in time 7. Remember, we assigned a discrete time of 7 to our first 10 channels. So when I press enter, I'm going to get 31 through 50 because those channels do not have a time of 7 assigned to them. In order to better see our selection, I'm going to press live and format to get into summary view again. And I'm going to change my flexi state to selected. Remember that a standard command line channel selection will return different values based on your flexi state. Query ignores your flexi state and is always going to return every channel that meets that criteria. There are also a couple of specialty modifiers that we can use with query. So if I say query Q my moves only soft key, that's going to select anything in the current queue that has a move instruction. I can also query unpatched as a soft key, enter, and that's going to return all the channels that don't have anything patched into them. A useful query I like to run after I've finished a tech week is to say query unpatched is in queue 1 through enter. So that's going to return any channels that are not patched but are queued into my show somewhere. Typically I'll go through and delete these out of my show file. The final thing I'll point out is that query is always going to give you one of two things. It's either going to provide a channel selection, or if nothing meets the criteria, for example, let's type query at 50, enter, you're going to get an error. Let's go ahead and shift clear to get that off our command line.